there. I'm just in St Andrew's Church, actually, having a little plink on the piano. But just a short video to say that really recommend episode 16 of We Need to Talk About Lucy Letby, which talks about the Victorian plumbing and the Victorian level of care there, that the unit wasn't fit to take care of the babies that were being sent, the high acuity babies that were being sent there. But it particularly focuses on the experiences of baby A and the birth of baby A, which is one of twins, and the conditions that the mother had, antiphospholipid condition, I think, and it was an emergency cesarean, and there was a general anaesthetic given, which can also affect the baby. Then you've got this failure to provide liquids for a certain amount of time. Nobody knows exactly how long that was, and glucose, which was absolutely essential to this very premature baby. And you've got the issues of all the plumbing issues and the attendant issues to do with infection that are going on there as well. And see, Peter and Dr. McConville are talking about all the other reasons why that baby didn't survive in that unit. It just wasn't a suitable place for that baby to be. They didn't have the staff there to deal with it, didn't have the skills, didn't have the equipment to deal with the baby at all, and sadly the baby died. This is baby A that they're focusing on in this episode. Another aspect is this they talk about these central lines that are put into the baby, one through its navel, I believe, and the other one through, I think Dr. McConville said, either an arm or a leg, and whether the line had gone too far into the baby's heart. That was one aspect. Also the aspect that an air embolus can be caused by insertion of these lines, especially when they weren't being put in correctly, and they weren't noticing that there was problems. And at one point there were two of these central lines that are put into the baby, and each of those could cause its own issues, with I can't remember exactly the term Dr. McConville used, toxic shock or septic shock or something. Anyway, it was that would have initiated the baby's decline and death. And there was a note even made by the doctor at the time that, the sudden decline of the baby coincided with this insertion or reinsertion of the line, and that it may have gone too far into the baby's heart, but also that these air emboluses, if there are there, that they could be caused by the insertion of these lines themselves, especially if they're not being done correctly. And the lack of equipment, I think, just all off the top of my head, from memory at the moment, not off the top of my head, but from memory of watching or listening to the podcast this morning. The best thing to do, obviously, is listen to the podcast. That's the thing to listen to, and because it goes into great detail about baby A. See, what was there? The other thing about not having the right equipment, not having the ultrasound in order to correctly ascertain the position of this long line, of this central line, and see where it was in relation to the heart. They didn't have that there. And there was simply not enough staff to look after babies of this high acuity. Plus you've got all the issues to do with infection and the problems with the birth, and the fact that the mum had general anaesthetic, and the impact upon that, the impact of that upon the premature twins, of which baby A was one. So you've got all these other, and that in the post-mortem it was decided that the death of the baby was unascertained, and as Dr. McConville says, that's not an uncommon thing. That can be, I think he said, in up to two-thirds of cases, that's what they put in there, because they don't know exactly, among all the possibilities of what actually caused the death. It could be one of several, or several in combination, that they put unascertained. That doesn't mean that there's been a murder there. It just means that they don't know, was it the effect of the general anaesthetic? Was it the effect of these central lines being put into the baby, or the failure to give glucose and liquids to the baby quickly enough that it was waiting for those in very precious hours, the golden hour, as Dr. McConville calls it, when it wasn't getting the glucose that it needed and the liquids. He kind of relates the note that is given that came up in the trial that the baby didn't have these liquids for a couple of hours. He said, well, how long was a couple of hours? He said, I'm not trusting that. It could be a lot longer. Who knows how long a couple of hours was? Because it's not specific. It's not, as he says, it should be like, where are the charts that should be there saying this happened at this time, this specific time, not just this random couple of hours idea. So you can just tell that he thinks it was all completely unsuitable unit for the baby to be there, and the baby should have been born in a level 3 unit where they had the appropriately skilled and quantity of staff in terms of doctors and nurses to look after that baby, and the correct equipment as well. And they also talk about the fact that it comes up, because they're really talking about Rachel Aviv's article as well, and the fact that Breary himself acknowledges that the unit's not really, they haven't got the room for the equipment that they need. So Dr. McConville says, well, if you haven't got the room for the equipment you need, you're not able to provide the service that you should be providing at a level 2 unit, So they were saying it's like an acknowledgement of the failure to be able to deliver the care that was required, and that those babies shouldn't have gone there because they weren't geared up, and the fact that it was overcrowded and that the incubators are way too close together. That's another acknowledgement that Dr. Breary says. He says, they're too close together. So you've got the issues of an infection there because of the babies so close together. And then you've got the nurses and other people coming in sick and sneezing. And like we said over the last couple of videos, this is from the reports from the parents, nurses sneezing, then not washing their hands, putting their hands right into the incubator. Plus all the issues with the pathogens flying around and embedded in all kinds of cracks and crannies and everywhere, like where feeds and bottles and drips are being connected everywhere, around the sinks where that hospital wastewater is backed up in the toilets, and the dripping pipes above, these pathogens just going everywhere. So they're going to keep going through, I think, a lot of the medical aspects of it now, and also continue through the Rachel Aviv's New Yorker article. But it's really, I'm just saying this, and I'll link it below, really, really advise you to listen to episode 16, and all of them, of course, all the episodes, but it was a very, very powerful episode this morning in relation to the experience of and what happened to baby A in that hospital, in that unit. Nothing to do with an invented serial killer, nothing at all. You can see why that baby sadly didn't have a chance in that unit, really. It was up against the odds anyway, but it should have been in a level 3 unit and not somewhere where they weren't ready, able or equipped or sufficiently skilled in some cases to look after a baby of that acuity. With very junior doctors there, practically on their own, not inserting these lines correctly, not having the equipment to check that they've not inserted it correctly, and so on and so forth. But I'll link it below and recommend very much that you listen to it, please. Episode 16 of We Need to Talk About Lucy Letby with Peter Elston and Dr. Michael McConville. And they're just going to carry on doing these episodes because there's so much more to talk about in relation to the so-called medical evidence that was brought to bear in the trial, and versus the reality of what was going on for those babies. And this, in a way, mirrors a lot of the work that Dr. McLachlan did on his Substack, Law Health Tech Substack, last year. And he was going systematically through the babies as well, through the children, and looking at their experience, taking information from the notes and just saying, look, this is a case of obvious sepsis and leading to necrotizing enterocolitis again and again and again. These are all the signs are always there, and they're in the notes themselves. suspected for sepsis, again and again and again for different babies. But they invented a serial killer, which is absolutely hideous and horrific, and this can't go on much longer. Unfortunately, got the same judge for the June trial next Monday, Goss. See what happens there, but I get the sense, well, I hope anyway, that the system knows that so many more people, I mean, people with medical backgrounds, scientific backgrounds, statisticians, other relevant backgrounds are looking into this. Neonatologists from all over the place, and investigative journalists, of course. And once the reporting restrictions are lifted, then it's going to be an explosion of questions being asked to a much wider audience, because they've shut that down so far, haven't they, with these reporting restrictions. Anyway, get back to my own reading through the Rachel Aviv New Yorker article soon, with commentary as I go along. Thanks very much, and have a lovely day there. Bye-bye.